Chris, can you just talk about the hole you guys put yourself in? They were up 10-0, and how difficult was it to sort of scrap back from that?
Yeah, I think at the beginning of the game we just kind of got punched in the mouth. I think it kind of happened at Kansas State too when we got down early, and then we kind of had to claw ourselves back in. So just being able to come out and being ready to play, I think that's the main thing. Louisville isn't a team that you can just slack off and then good things will happen in the end. We got beat tonight, and I think that showed us how to react.
Does this outcome make Friday night's game even more important?
No, I think we came into the game looking for thinking we were going to win. And I think we're going to come into the same game on Friday with the same exact outlook. So you're going to win and lose some games, but just coming out ready to play. And obviously we got stuff we got to work on.
Chris, can you talk about a little bit of the defensive presence that they had on the perimeter? They were really ball hogging you and pressuring you, all the guards, and making even handoffs and some of the passing difficult.
I just think they're a super aggressive team. They top block, they're physical, and I think we just didn't have that part of us out there tonight. I'm not going to say we didn't compete, but we could have been better being physical and obviously getting to our spots. And I think my teammates know that.
Brooks, you're up.
Yeah, Chris, I think this is your sixth game now versus the Cards. Going back to your freshman year at Syracuse, and obviously the program had some really down years there. While you were there, they only won, I think it was less than 10 ACC games. Could you just speak to, on the growth you've seen in that program since you've got into the ACC, just, from where they were when you started in the conference to now at this point, since they've changed coaches and, kind of like shifted the energy there?
When I was a freshman, they were at the bottom of the conference, and now being a junior and then a senior, they were the top two teams in the conference. So obviously, just knowing that they've rebuilt and they're the Louisville that we grew up watching. So I think that shows a lot to what their culture is basketball-wise.
This question is for the two of you. I know this isn't the result that we expected or wanted tonight, but I'm curious, what are some takeaways that you can come with of things that you guys did positive tonight?
You got it, man.
You ain't said nothing this whole time.
I think there's a lot of positive things we do. I think we show some heart out there. We don't just get the shoulder down. We keep our heads up. We keep playing hard and we keep fighting. I think that show who we are. We're not gonna just let it go like this. So we're still gonna fight.
The main point is for us just to come out ready to play. I think the last two games that we've been punched in the mouth, that we've had to claw back, we've shown ourselves that we can compete, but it's hard to dig yourself out of a hole when you're down 14 to 15 points, no matter how good you are. So just being able to come out ready to play and give yourself a chance, and then let's see how it goes.
All right, thanks everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Lost by 20. That's one of the top teams in the country in three-point attempts and three-point makes. We did not do a good enough job of keeping them away from their strength. Not even close. They came up with every 50-50 ball. They got the key rebounds in key situations. And losing the battle on the glass tonight was disappointing because we have the physicality to do it. We just didn't come up with the basketballs. Our guys have been active to the ball most of the year. We were a step slow tonight. Open to questions.
Mark, they got off to a quick lead. They made the first 5 shots. It seemed like you were scrambling from then on. Do you think you guys just never really found the rhythm?
I think that early on, and we talked about this as a group in the locker room, we were doing a poor job communicating, and Louisville was doing an excellent job executing on both sides of the ball. I think it was 10-0. I had to take the time out. And so they were doing a great job defending us, and conversely on the offensive side, they were running their stuff. And we had a couple of communication things that we could have shored up the defense a little bit better, and I take responsibility for that. And we'll be repping that tomorrow in preparation for the next game.
They didn't, I think the entire game didn't make a basket that wasn't either a layup, a dunk, or a three-pointer. They just didn't bother with mid-range stuff. Is that just a sign that they sort of were able to get what they wanted?
Well, that's the profile and the makeup of their team. That's what they've been doing all year. They have some of the best. They in terms of roster construction, they signed a lot of excellent three-point shooters. And so they have that, and they're able to really focus on that as a strength. And it's clearly an emphasis point for them not to take the contested twos. And they did a good job of executing their game plan. And they came in here and beat us fair and square. And we've got things to work on. I was proud of our guys for fighting back. We cut the lead to 11 in the second half on a TT Carr layup and Chris Bell free throws, and then a Chris Bell three. And so our guys never stopped fighting. They never stopped playing hard. We can correct a lot of things.
Yeah, Mark, kind of going back to the defense. Sorry. Thank you. Just given their strength shooting the three ball, I was just curious as to kind of like what you saw in film to kind of make you go zone. A zone so much tonight, and was it just trying to stop the paint touches and trying to and stop them from getting kickouts?
Yeah, so we track every possession defensively in the game, and when we see that they're scoring on the vast majority of our man defense, then we went zone to change the rhythm, and I thought at times it did change the rhythm, and then we were a couple of times late on our rotations in our zone, but we had to try to find a way to change that rhythm, and that's why we went zone.
Coach, this is the first game of a 6-game opening gauntlet in ACC play. Is there any takeaways, immediate reactions of, God, we've got to step up on this or improve this to kind of step up into conference play here?
Yeah, I always look at what did we do well and what do we have in terms of improvement. And tonight we have, in terms of what we did well, our guys fought incredibly hard. The effort, the energy, the fight was there, especially as the game went on. We increased that. And so we have to figure out how to have a better start. We must figure that out. Improvement areas: guard the three-point line better, rebound better. Study the film and we'll have more.
Over here, and then to you, Morgan.
Hi, Coach Madsen. Raymond Ayala with Full Court Dream. I just wanted to ask you, how do you feel about, if you were to play this team again in the ACC tournament, how do you feel you can change the result and kind of fix this game? Because this game was like a really tough game. So what kind of plays or defenses do you think you need to institute in the next game against a potentially a good ranked team like Louisville?
Yeah, no doubt. I appreciate the question. We need to. So I have some ideas in my mind right now that I'm not going to go into, but I'm going to study the film, and there are definitely adjustments on both sides of the ball that we can make. We have to play with more physicality. They were the more physical team from the start. That was clear. That was clear to me, to our players, to the fans. And so we have to increase our physicality, and we have to make some structural scheme changes. We got to get them off the three-point line, and there are things we can do for that.
And then quick follow-up. How do you guys have had a great season so far before this game. How do you keep the positivity in the room going? Because you guys are definitely have a really good shot at the NCAA tournament. So what do you do to keep the guys motivated and going?
We have an outstanding group of players. We really have an outstanding group of people, of basketball players. A lot of our guys will watch the film on their own tonight, and they'll be able to pick out, hey, these are the things that I did well. These are the areas I have to improve. And we'll come in tomorrow, we'll address that, and we'll work hard, and we'll make the progress we have to make so we can have a better outcome.
How's it going, Coach? My name is Morgan with the Berkeley Pulse, and I was wondering about the first half. You guys ended in a 14-point deficit. Was that more about execution, decision-making, or the physicality that we were seeing from Louisville?
I think it was a combination of physicality, and our communication was poor. There's no other way to say it. Our communication early in the game was poor, and Louisville did a great job capitalizing on that. I think we were talking, but we were talking late. We talk about communicating in 3 ways: early, loud, continuous. We have room to grow in those areas. And our guys know that, and our guys will grow in that area.
And it seemed like the offense came through in waves, and I could hear the energy in the crowd boiling up. What did you guys experience on the bench with the crowd energy?
Our guys cut their lead to 11 with some great plays. Our next step against a top 10, top 15 team is now cutting that lead to 11, and then in the next 2-minute segment, okay, now we cut that from 11 down to 6. And the lead went the other way tonight. And so, again, it's diving into the film, it's diving into the details, it's working hard process-wise so that we don't have a result like that again.
Mark, you guys obviously have had a great start to the season. I doubt you've spent much time yet on Notre Dame, but how important is Friday night's game just to keep momentum going and just to get back on the right foot?
It's a huge game for us. The Notre Dame game is a huge game for us, and that's an excellent basketball team. Notre Dame has shooting. They have a lot of physicality up front. They have size at key positions. And so, when you're in the ACC, you kind of see random games throughout the non-conference. And so Notre Dame they had a tough injury in losing Burton, but they've regrouped from that. And they're fighting, they're playing well, and it's an excellent opponent, and we have to be ready for them. Thanks, guys.